So what's up people, how you doing? Welcome back to Hollywood Breakdowns, and I'm your friendly Hollywood Breakdowner, Prajeth. And today I'm going to be reviewing the Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man show. So Marvel Studios' first release of the year is now officially out. Well, it's 2 episodes, and I know the show wasn't really promoted well. I have literally only seen 2 TV spots for the show until now, when Marvel usually releases like 10 TV spots by the time the show's premiere. So it kinda seemed like Marvel wasn't really confident about this show. Moreover, the animation has been heavily criticized by people since day one. Not to forget, the voice actor of Spider-Man in this show, Hudson Thames, has made some controversial comments on the show and it has faced some backlash. By the way, he's the same guy who voiced the character in the What If series. No matter how many negative stuff this show has experienced, Marvel seems confident. The series has already been renewed for a 3rd season before the 1st season even premiered, and the scripting work for the 2nd season is done and the animatics are halfway done. That is a lot of confidence. And this is not some rumor that came from an insider or something. This was confirmed by the head of Marvel Studios Animation.
I've now read all the scripts for season 2. We're halfway through the animatics. We're also we're greenlit for through season 3.
An animated Marvel show with 3 seasons on Disney+. That sounds familiar. Oh, that's right. What If had 3 seasons as well. I mean, it started with a solid season 1, but then season 2 and season 3 just became Captain Carter propaganda. Like, it was a huge missed opportunity to do interesting things like, what if Marvel and DC crossover? Okay, I mean, that's a bit of a stretch, but they could have done better stuff following the events of the MCU. Like, what if the Avengers lost the Battle of New York? And season 1 did do something like that. Like, there were episodes like what if Ultron won, or what if Doctor Strange lost his heart instead of his hands. Those were some great episodes. But looking at the good reviews for the new Spider-Man show, I just hope Marvel doesn't pull a Sony and yet again give us a new iteration of the same old Spidey we've seen. We also know that this show was initially titled as Spider-Man Freshman Year, and it was going to show the origin story of our MCU Tom Holland Spider-Man. But last year, the show was retitled to Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, and it was later clarified that the show has nothing to do with our main MCU timeline. I can definitely see why that is the case, because there are some parallels between the events of Captain America Civil War and this show. And the fact that other superheroes do exist in this universe gives me MCU vibes. I mean, they have changed up key things, which makes this show feel more like a What If spin-off series. In fact, it's the best What If concept Marvel has come up with.
I am the Watcher. I am your guide through these vast new realities. Follow me and ponder the question, what if?
Swinging through the city so fast you could barely notice them. Wild problems, you know what's after that? Friendly neighborhood, he's taking care of the habitat.
When I first heard about the show, I thought we were just getting another Spider-Man story which would feature the same canon events. So I wasn't really excited for it. But I wanted to check it out because at the end of the day, it's a Spider-Man show and we all know how big of a Spider-Man fan I am. If you didn't, go watch my intro again. I was interested to see how they handle Spidey's origin story because this is Marvel making the show, not Sony. But the origin story they went with is not something new, but it is not what you would expect either. I'll get to that in a minute. After watching the trailer, I was excited to see so many characters being introduced in just the 1st season. And I have to say, so far the series has not shown much, but the route that they're taking is very intriguing.
Curious. Very curious.
The biggest worry about the show ever since the trailer dropped is the animation. For me, personally, I think the animation isn't as bad as what people say. I think it's new and fresh. It's different from what we've already seen in the What If and X-Men 97 series. And as long as the animation is watchable, I think the story is what defines how good a show is. Besides, I don't see what all the fuss is about. We've seen worse animation. And if you're gonna be expecting Spider-Verse type of animation, then go watch those movies. Why are you expecting another show based on the same character to have the same animation? That's just gonna be boring. Now I want to talk about the release schedule that Marvel has chosen to go with for this show. Wait, let me just pull it up. 2 episodes on January 29th, which I've just watched. The next 3 on next Wednesday. 3 more on the Wednesday after. And the last 2 episodes on 19th February. This is a really weird schedule because Marvel usually releases like an episode a week. I mean, I know for Echo they released all 5 episodes on the same day, and for What If Season 2 and 3 they just released 1 episode a day. So I think Marvel is just experimenting with new ways to release their shows. Personally, I prefer them releasing all the episodes on one day. I mean, an episode a day is also fine. I hate it when we had to wait an entire week just to watch the next episode because I feel like that time just kills the suspense. And that's something I've been facing with Mr. Beast's Prime Video series called Beast Games. Each of his episodes have been ending with a cliffhanger that you have to wait for a week to see. Oh yeah, I'll also make a video on Beast Games once the final episode drops because I have a lot of thoughts on that show. Coming back to Spider-Man, I'm just happy we are getting episodes in batches of 2 or 3 because if I had to watch the show over a span of 2 months, yeah, I'm sitting this one out. So the first episode starts out with classic Peter Parker waking up late on his first day of school. We get to see Aunt May, who is very similar to Marisa Tomei's portrayal of the character in the MCU. Actually, to be honest, all the voice actors did a great job in mimicking the live action versions of these characters. Then we get a dramatic shot of Peter opening his bag after missing the train. It makes us think he's gonna reach out for his suit and swing to school, but he ends up taking out his oatmeal because this version of Peter Parker hasn't gotten his powers yet. Scenes like these are what makes the show so good, even though the animation looks like a high schooler made it on Powtoon. Then May pulls up and says she will drop him at school. As May was driving, Peter talks about Uncle Ben's death, and the way he puts it, it seems like it didn't happen too long ago. Which is weird because we usually see Uncle Ben dying after Peter gets his powers, and that's also when he says the magic words.
Remember, with great power comes great responsibility.
This is a canon event, as explained in Across the Spider-Verse. But that's not how the scene plays out in this show. Moving on, Peter arrives at Midtown High, where we see Doctor Strange and Venom drop through a portal while they were fighting. But Peter does not seem to recognize Doctor Strange, and Strange even says that they weren't supposed to be there. They continue to fight and in the process damage the school. At one point, Venom even attacks a girl who we later get introduced to as Nico Minoru. I'll talk about her later. Peter, being the brave guy he is, stands up against Venom to save this complete stranger's life. I love these kind of scenes because they show why Peter deserves to be Spider-Man. Because it's not the powers that make him a hero, it's his will to do good for others. That's why Iron Man said,
"If you're nothing without this suit, then you shouldn't have it, okay?"
Peter is still Spider-Man without the suit. I mean, look at Iron Man. The suit does not define who he is. Remember what Tony said when Cap asked him what he is without the suit?
Big man in a suit of armor. Take that off, what are you?
Genius, billionaire, playboy, philanthropist.
Moving on, we learn that the spider that gives Peter his powers come from an alternate dimension through Doctor Strange's portal that was still open. At this point, I'm not sure if it's from an alternate dimension. It could just be that this Doctor Strange is from the same universe but Peter just never heard of him. However, the show does make it clear that superheroes do exist in this universe, as we can see an Iron Man air freshener in Aunt May's car, and a photo of Norman Osborn with Captain America later. So it'd be weird if that's the case. But this is also weird because this is literally the main problem Miguel has with Miles in the Spider-Verse movies, and that's why he's being referred to as an anomaly in those movies. Miguel even goes as far as to say that Miles shouldn't even have become Spider-Man. And that's a whole problem there, so I don't know why Marvel chose to take this route. Cause the events of No Way Home has already affected the Spider-Verse before.
Don't even get me started on Doctor Strange and the little nerd back on Earth 1999-99.
Anyways, next we see that the spider that bit him does not die, which is unusual, and it latches itself onto someone else's back. This person's face is not revealed at all, which makes me think that this could be Cindy Moon, who becomes Silk in the comics. The title card then plays with our classic Spider-Man song, but it's a remix version with a rap, and I think it sounds good. Then we fast forward a few months and see him already having a Spider-Man life. I really wanted to see how he learns about his powers and becomes Spider-Man, but to be fair, we've seen that enough. Then we get a sequence of him saving Harry Osborn, who has now been race swapped. He's not the only one who had this treatment. Then we also see that Peter's first love interest is Pearl Penguin, who is also known as Wave in the comics. We also see that the Nico who he saved at the beginning is now his best friend, and she's also known as Sister Grimm in the comics. Honestly, I don't think these characters will become set heroes in this show. Then we get introduced to Lonnie Lincoln, who is dating Pearl, and Peter gets a bit jealous, of course. Lonnie is the Tombstone in the comics, who is a Spider-Man villain. During a project, Lonnie asked to be paired with Peter after Pearl told him that Peter is very smart. As they converse, we find out that Lonnie is not that typical dumb, muscular, cool guy like Flash, but rather he wants to pursue education while also being a football player. Then we get a sequence of him going home, and we see him face some racism on the way. At home, he is shown to be a very supportive son. I think throughout the course of this show, we're going to see how the world makes him go down a dark path and become Tombstone. I want to take a minute here and talk about how we are not seeing any of Peter's usual friends in this show. No MJ, no Gwen, no Ned, no Flash, no Betty Brant, no Liz. You get what I mean? This show is changing up everything we've seen so far about the character in the movie. Then we get another scene in which Peter stops a robber and returns the stolen money to the shopkeeper. Instead of sending the woman to prison, Peter listens to her story. She explains that she's been struggling and took the money out of desperation. Peter empathizes with her situation and suggests that while there should be consequences for her actions, the shopkeeper could just choose to let her go. He points out that everyone has tough times just like him. This moment highlights Spider-Man's compassion and understanding, showing a deeper level of empathy than expected. This scene perfectly captures the essence of Spider-Man. The writers have really worked out some magic for this show with scenes like this. This is Peter. He's a kid from Queens who has all these superhuman powers that makes him one of the most powerful beings in the Marvel universe. And yet he chooses to stay on the ground and stick out for the little guy as your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man.
I mean, I'd rather just stay on the ground for a little while. Friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. Somebody's gotta look out for the little guy, right?
The movies have often nerfed his powers and even overlooked this side of him, so we don't really get to see this on the big screen. The episode then ends with a very familiar scene and the biggest nod to the MCU thus far. A race-swapped Norman Osborn appears at Peter's house waiting to offer him an internship. The scene played out the exact same way Tony appeared in Civil War, from Peter telling May about a crazy car parked in the street to May not knowing about such a rich figure. Again, I love how much similarity it has with the events of the MCU, making it feel more like an what if episode rather than being the 100th time we see a new Spider-Man. Another thing I have to acknowledge is how much Norman's voice actor sounds like Willem Dafoe.
Peter, New York has become a dangerous place. We need Spider-Man.
Peter, Peter, Peter. No good deed goes unpunished. You can thank me later.
Can we just take a moment to appreciate this man? Episode 2 picks off exactly where episode 1 left off, and Norman tells Peter about the internship. He says he picked Peter after researching with the local schools, but I think he knew Peter is Spider-Man. He also tells Peter to meet him as soon as Peter reaches Oscorp. When Peter goes there the next day, the staff working there laugh whenever he says Norman asked him to go meet him, as if it's not a normal thing for Norman Osborn to do. At the internship, we are introduced to some new characters again. First, we see a Wakandan exchange student named Asha, whose comic book counterpart has control over light and is able to turn invisible. We also see a guy called Amadeus Cho, who becomes the Hulk in the comics, but I doubt they will take that route in this show. At least for the first season. The guy in charge of these interns is Dr. Whitman. In the comics, he's a Fantastic Four villain called the Wizard. Oh my god, they have so many random characters from the edges of the Marvel universe in this show. And hopefully they mean something, because the next character who I'm going to talk about is going to piss me off if they don't do anything with her. And that person would be Dr. Carla Connors. Yes, she's a gender-swapped and race-swapped variant of the Lizard that we've seen in the Amazing Spider-Man movies. I think she will become the Lizard in a future season, noticing that she only has one arm, but I don't see it happening in the next 8 episodes. Then we see him going to fight a villain called Butane, during a short break, and Norman sees Peter suit up in a CCTV camera. The episode ends with Norman confronting Peter with the CCTV footage. Again, I think he knew all this all along, but he needed a solid evidence to go confront Peter. From the trailer, we know that Norman will be giving Peter a version of the Future Foundation suit from the comic. I also want to see how they are gonna adapt the Green Goblin story moving forward, because the trailers haven't shown Norman becoming the Goblin yet. Maybe that's for season 2 or something? Moving on, public reviews for the show has been greatly positive since the premiere, with people's only criticism being the animation. Those who got to watch all 10 episodes already have praised the show for its fresh take on Spider-Man, blending classic and modern elements and offering a compelling and stylish interpretation of the character. They also talked about how the show does a good job in showing love for the supporting characters. People love how the show focuses on Spider-Man's responsibility as a neighborhood protector, capturing the essence of Spider-Man's character, with heartfelt moments balancing out the action. Personally, I think this show is good and it keeps me engaged. Ever since the trailer, I've been wanting to see how this Spider-Man variant's origin story will go down. I wanted to see some scenes of him figuring out his powers and making his homemade suit. Though we didn't get to see him make his first suit or his web fluid, I'm happy to see a new version of Spider-Man. I mean, it's Spider-Man after all. They can make like 20 different movies on him and I'll watch every single one of them. Heck, I've probably seen this movie 100 times. As long as they don't make illogical and cringe movies like Sony, I'll love them. Yes, I'm talking about you. And you. So I'm interested to see how it goes and how the arcs of the supporting characters are going to be treated. Moreover, the best is yet to come because we know characters like Doc Ock, Scorpion and the Chameleon are going to be appearing in future episodes. Speaking of the Scorpion, when the heck are they going to be using him in the MCU? He was introduced all the way back in Homecoming and he hasn't had an appearance ever since. Hopefully they do something with him after the multiverse saga.
It's on our little spider friend.
I'm also excited to see Daredevil interact with Spider-Man, especially since Charlie Cox is going to be reprising his role and voice the character. We already got a few minutes of Matt Murdock interacting with Peter in No Way Home.
How did you just do that? I'm a really good lawyer.
But now it's time to see his vigilante persona to meet the Spider. Overall, the show has a promising start and I'm gonna be giving it a 4.5 out of 5. But this rating could change by the end of the show. The only flaw for me so far has been the animation, but it's not as bad as what people say. Do not miss out on the show just because of the animation style. Another thing I'm worried about is the origin story, because if that spider is from a different dimension, then Marvel is definitely playing into the Spider-Verse movies. If not, that would be such a weird plot decision. Anyways, that would do it for my review of the first 2 episodes. I'll meet you back in another video soon. Do me a favor, hit down and smash that subscribe button to see more reviews and tech videos. Click on screen for another great video and bye!
Spider-Man vs. Bonnie and Clyde. Here we go. Oh, sorry! Please work, please work, please work!
Peter, New York has become a dangerous place.
Gotcha! Oh, that's new.
We need Spider-Man.
Your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, now streaming.